So I'm beginning to appreciate all video that's recorded because I can get to the end of the thing and then it all just cuts out. I just did 8 minutes, cut out the reception. I probably should actually get it plugged straight in instead of doing a wireless connection. God, could you imagine like doing 50 minutes? And that's happened to me before, but a good thing it was only 5 or 6 or 7 minutes before. So, okay, the antioxidants, the 7 that you should memorize: beta-carotene, lutein, lycopene, selenium, vitamin A, vitamin C, and vitamin E. So selenium, lycopene, lutein, beta-carotene, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E. Those are antioxidants. Antioxidants stop the free radicals from harming your body. So you have the system, right? You got the established system of the body that works. It's got, you know, it's got a heart system, it's got a circulatory system, it's got cell system, and it's got what are all the systems? Breathing system. You got breathing system, blood systems, nervous system, immune system, and endocannabinoid system. So that's the endocannabinoidness. It's the ECS. So the ECS is the endocannabinoid system, and it actually is bigger than every other system that you have. So the marijuana plant is going to change the way everybody thinks about everything, okay? Before you said it was all supposed to be bad for you, but it turns out it's really healthy. And you all been lying your whole lives. So antioxidants are good to stop the free radicals. Antioxidants, these are cannabinoids act as an antioxidant. So those are other antioxidants, but the cannabinoids are the ones I was talking about. A free radical happens when you have the UV radiation from the sun that hits your skin, and then it creates a wild free cell, free molecule or bacteria or microbe or virus, some sort of deformity, some weird free radical that just wants to take over the established system, and they want to overthrow it, and they want to dissolve the whole, you know, the establishment. And so you have to stop the free radical from taking over the established body system, the immune system, and the way to do that is with the antioxidants, CBD, cannabidiol, right, cannabinoids, tetra, hydrocarbonyl, THC. So CBD, THC. These combined with all the other ones. I don't know which specific ones, but the cannabinoids in general, the 66 found in marijuana, goes to help protect you from the free radicals that can cause aging, impaired healing, and cancer. Okay, so that was that, and that was that, and that's this, and now the real inventor of the radio, talking about it on Weird Kentucky, is Nathan Stubblefield. So born in 1860. Stubblefield was an eccentric melon farmer from Murray. He was a voracious reader and styled himself as a self-taught scientist and inventor. As early as 1885, Nathan had invented several different wireless telephone devices, and wireless telephony, of course, is the whole point of radio. This was years before Marconi got official credit for inventing radio. Even without Stubblefield, Marconi still wouldn't be the true inventor of radio. Nikola Tesla invented it well before Marconi. I also mentioned the Tower of Power. He had this big tower. Tesla did the Wardenclyffe Tower that he was going to give wireless free power to the community and to everybody all around the world. And you know, the energy companies didn't want that, so they burned all of his material and everything. Nathan Stubblefield, he too, in 1892, he performed the world's first wireless broadcast. The first world's wireless broadcast happened in Murray, Kentucky. That was Nathan Stubblefield. Tesla used, Marconi used Tesla stuff, and then Tesla used Stubblefield, or I don't know. I think so, but I think they built all, you know, science builds off of one another, but he destroyed all this stuff, so I'm not sure if he actually used it or not, but he was the world's first wireless broadcast happened in Murray, transmitting speech and music. Later, he gave a successful demonstration on the Potomac in Washington, D.C., yet without proper marketing or credit for his invention, it eluded him. He entered into a business partnership with a company that promised to promote his wireless telephone, but instead let it languish, suppressed his patent, paid him only $800. In a trunk full of worthless stock certificates. So he made no money whatsoever. They give him a patent, or they suppressed his patent, so actually they hid it and then paid him like a little bit of basically he signed an agreement with some businessman that just screwed him over, and so he should have just went independent. And Stubblefield eventually died of starvation, a crazed hermit in his shack in the wilderness of Almo, but not before destroying all his prototypes, fearful his inventions would be stolen again by big city slickers. He's buried in Stubblefield Cemetery, also known as Bowman Cemetery, on Route 2075 in Callaway County. A road near his place of death has been named Radio Road, but for Nathan, that's too little, too late. Kentucky is also home of Ray Chapman and Carl Mays. Let's see, the unusual distinction for being the only pro baseball player ever killed during a game goes to Ray Chapman, and Ray Chapman was born in Kentucky, so the only man who ever has been baseball has caused one fatality, and that fatality is called Ray Chapman, and so Chapman come from Kentucky, but also the man who killed him also came from Kentuckian, or was a Kentuckian, so the pitcher murdered him was Carl Mays. So New York Yankees pitcher Carl Mays was a native of Liberty, Kentucky. So he came from Kentucky also. So Chapman, a shortstop for the Cleveland Indians, was killed on August 16, 1920 by a spitball thrown by one of baseball's most disliked bad guys of the day, New York Yankees pitcher Carl Mays. So basically Carl Mays, he was an okay pitcher, but he was dirty, and he didn't mind a spitball. So I think that made spitballs illegal after that. They, I guess he wasn't, put up for murder. He didn't go anywhere. So he's born in McHenry, extremely charismatic, well-loved player. Made fans all more outraged when Mays had killed him because he was a good man, right? Ray Chapman was like charismatic, well-loved, and actually cared about the fans, whereas the Carl Mays was just a dirty, no good piece of crap, just a spitball. He killed him with a spitball. Many of those at the game insist that Mays clearly and deliberately threw the spitball directly at Chapman's face. Contrary to popular belief, spitballs were often treated not with spit, but with all manners of gooey substances such as grease, oil, lard, or peanut butter. This treatment made it harder for a bat to glance a proper blow off the slippery ball, but also had the effect of making the ball travel in an erratic pattern that was difficult for the batter's eye to follow. The spitball was outlawed after Chapman's death. So they made the spitball illegal, but that's stupid, really. I mean, like, he threw the ball right at his head, and I guess it hit him in the temple and murdered him. Mays would be investigated for accusations of throwing the 1921 World Series. So I guess that's the Black Sox, right? That's what they call the Black Sox. His image wasn't helped by any apparent lack of remorse over Chapman event. He would later be traded to the Cincinnati Reds and briefly to the Brooklyn Dodgers, where he would eventually give up and go into early retirement. Though both men are born in Kentucky, neither was buried here. Mays' grave is located in Oregon, and Chapman's can be found in Lakeview Cemetery, Cleveland, Ohio. So, yeah, but neither one of these Kentucky sons are born or had died here. I don't know. Mays seems like an absolute piece of crap, and he actually murdered a pretty decent dude. And that sounds like he murdered him. You know what I mean? He threw a ball as fast as he could, and he killed the dude. So he killed him. He killed him. You know what I mean? That's he intended to. That's an illegal pitch. You're not allowed to do that, but it's not. There's got to be a line between real life and the game. Yeah, you get punished in the game, but he murdered somebody, so that becomes jurisdiction for the Cleveland law enforcement. Dropped the ball, literally on that one. So that's nothing to brag about at all. We had that guy, Ray Chapman. That's a good guy, right? The guy who had died, actually, he was a good representative of Kentucky, but not the guy from Liberty, Mays, right? Carl Mays and Raymond Chapman. And that sucks. They will always be, those two names will always be together until the day they die. So yeah, I mean, he gets that notable distinction. Some more review. The first wireless broadcast, right? We just come up with that first world's wireless broadcast. Was in Murray, Kentucky. So we get that. We got the first hand and heart transplant. We got the first ambulance. The first emergency room. First Mother's Day. First, we invented bourbon whiskey. We invented the Tommy gun. We're the first state to vote on secret paper ballots in 1888. So we advanced democracy in 1888. And then in 1891 was when they wrote the Constitution. That is still in play today. In 1891, it has the section for the Constitution for revolution. So we embedded revolution into our Constitution. We created the hot brown, which is a type of turkey and bacon sandwich with some type of special sauce founded in Brown Hotel by Fred K. Schmidt. First person to create Mother's Day, right? The long-lasting flavor to the chewing gum, Taffy Tulo. Probably the first enamel bathtub, maybe not. The lies, okay? So the lies, the disco ball is a lie. Kentucky kicks ass, but we need to start talking about things that Kentucky actually kicks ass on, okay? The marketing company, they start out with that end, right? Kentucky kicks ass. Well, why does Kentucky kick ass? Well, because I like myself. Well, Kentucky needs to kick ass more than just because you're, you know, an egomaniac, a selfish egomaniac. It needs to be kicking ass because we're actually doing really good things, and we have. There's a lot of things that we can brag about. So, but we don't want to lie. We don't want to make up stuff and say that we're inventing and creating things that we never actually invented or created. The cheeseburger. So that's kick-ass lie number 2 for Kentucky kicks ass. The cheeseburger, it's disputed already, so that's the first problem I have with it. In 1934, in Kaolin's restaurant in Louisville, Kentucky, Lionel Sternberger is reputed to have invented the cheeseburger in 1926 at the age of 16 when he was working as a fry cook at his father's Pasadena, California sandwich shop. So that's Lionel Sternberger, formed it in 1926. Kaolin, they said it was in 1934. So they invented it. You know, there's one people that's saying they invented it at 8 years before Kaolin. So let's say Kaolin did invent it or come up with the first idea or independently had thought of it. They did it in 34. You have another person that 8 years beforehand said that they did it in California. So you can't take credit for somebody. You know, if 2 people independently thought of the idea, it'd be the person who thought of that independent idea first. You know, just because you had thought of it, it was original thought in your brain, that doesn't mean, you know, it could just be something that's obvious too, right? That's just obvious for anybody. Like cheese, like a cheeseburger. You could just put ketchup on a cheeseburger or a little bit of mustard or some onions or, you know, lettuce. Or you could put a sourdough bun, right? You could have it on wheat bread. You could have it on different types of, you know what I mean? There's so many, there's the tartar sauce, right? You could go all Frisch's Big Boy on it and put on tartar sauce. And it's like, hey, guess what we did? We put tartar sauce on the hamburger. And that's delicious. You know, those are all good inventions. But to say that you invented it, you slap cheese on a hamburger. Hamburger was invented, you know, the Mongols actually used it, but it was invented in Germany. You know, there's a Hamburg, Germany. There's an actual city called Hamburg, Germany, so they would say that burger from Hamburg, hamburger. So that's where hamburger actually came from. So that's the invention, right, is the hamburger, the domestication of cows and killing the cows and then eating the steak and chopping the cow up and eating the meat off the cow. That's the invention, right? So putting the cheese on these, you know, slabs of carcasses, I'm not sure how much you can actually brag about that. The right spot and experimentally drop the slab of American cheese on a sizzling hamburger. Early example of the cheeseburger appearing on the menus is a 1928 menu for the Los Angeles restaurant Odell's, which listed a cheeseburger smothered with chili for 25 cents. Other restaurants said they invented the cheeseburger, for instance, Kaolin's restaurant in Louisville, Kentucky. They say that they invented it, and I've seen Kaolin and then Kaelin. But they said they invented a cheeseburger in 1934. 1 year later, a trademark for the name cheeseburger was awarded to Louis Ballast of the Humpty Dumpty Drive-In in Denver, Colorado. So he got a trademark for the name cheeseburger a year after Kaolin came up with it. And according to Steak and Shake Archives, the restaurant's founder, Gus Belt, applied for a trademark on the word in the 1930s. So he tried to get a trademark on the word cheeseburger too. So not only did they slap the piece of cheese on it, now people are fighting over who actually came up with the idea, and they're trying to get a patent on it, right? I know it was my idea. No, it was my idea. So you got all these men everywhere fighting in Denver, Colorado, and you got Steak and Shake, you got Louisville and California and L.A., so these towns all over are fighting for, you know, not only who created it, but who was the first to patent it, because that's the important part. It's you can say you invented it, but until you have an official designation, a patent, and you can do a poor man's patent by writing a registered. You can write your idea, put it into a letter, and then send it to yourself. So if it goes to court, you open it in front of a court and says, you know, therefore entered it into the public record that it was open in front of court, and you have the idea of a dated material before them. Therefore, you win. You get the patent. Okay, so Charles Kalin claims to have invented the cheese-topped burgers. He wanted, according to local author Robin Garr, to add a new tang to the hamburger. This is the earliest example of a menu claiming to be the birthplace of the cheeseburger. So, no, we didn't invent the cheeseburger. Kentucky do not brag about this. 11th century is when the Mongols carried flat patties of meat with them on long horseback trips. These Mongols would travel to Moscow, and the idea of a flat patty of meat spread throughout the city was eventually brought to Hamburg in Germany by sailors, and then it spread to New York, and the meat patty became known as the Hamburg steak or the hamburger, right? So the Mongols come up with it, and they're rolling around everywhere. Then, you know, the Hungolians, the Huns, right, German Huns, right, clearly they're the Mongolians, the Germans got it from the Mongolians, and then the Germans brought it to America, and then America has hamburger now, and hot dogs because of the Germans. So, who created the hamburger? That's, you know, and actually, it's not, the hamburger was a cow, right? So, I don't know, if whoever domesticated and killed the cow was the first one that created the hamburger. So, but the other ones, some things are just not inventions, right? Just adding a piece of cheese. Who created the cheese fries? Who created the ham and cheese? Who created cheese and crackers? That's not, it's just a topping. It's not an invention, okay? So just adding a topping, it does not mean you invent. If you made cheese or if you made the burger, thank you yourself as an inventor. If you did put those two together, yeah, it was a delicious combination. You know, that's that cheese on top of meat, that's a good combination. So is a piece of bread and some ketchup or some barbecue or some tartar sauce, right? So those are, or a piece of tomato. So tomatoes are invented was found they're indigenous to North America. But anyways, it doesn't matter. Louisville, Kentucky, you didn't make the cheeseburger. So get off that and quit lying to everybody. Lie number 3, Corvettes. The first Corvette rolled out of the Chevrolet factory in Flint, Michigan, June 30th, 1953. The most recent Corvette was built today in the dedicated Corvette manufacturing facility in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So the first Corvette rolled out of a Chevrolet factory in Flint, Michigan. Flint, Michigan invented the Corvette. Okay, June 30th, 1953. So stop lying. We got a Corvette. We make 90%. That's why they say, you know, Kentucky and Corvettes are associated together, because in Bowling Green is the only factory that's making Corvettes, and we're making it, you know, that's 90%. We're making 90% of all the Corvettes in the world. So yay, go Kentucky, go Bowling Green. We're making, you know, Corvettes. Those are some badass cars. Those are some sweet, sleek-looking cars, and they've had staying power ever since, you know, for 50 years, right? We keep on churning out Corvettes. But we weren't the first ones to invent it. So be proud of our Corvette heritage. Be proud that we have a Corvette museum and a Corvette factory. But to sit there and say that we invented the Corvette, you're lying. It's not true. We did not invent the Corvette. So in between the two cars that was just built in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and that was built in Flint, Michigan, we've built 1.5 million Corvettes overall. Okay, so the Corvette companies built, we as Americans built 1.5 million Corvettes, but we as Kentucky built 90% of those. So over 1 million Corvettes were made out of Bowling Green. So the Corvette was invented in 1951 by the General Motors designer Harvey Earl. So Harvey Earl designed it, invented it, and then the first Corvette rolled out of a Chevrolet factory in Flint, Michigan on June 30th, 1953. Not Kentucky, not Louisville, not Bowling Green. Quit lying, okay? We didn't invent the Corvette. Fried chicken, because of KFC, right? So that's, I heard Muhammad Ali has the most recognized Kentucky face throughout the world, but then I'm thinking, what about Harlan Sanders? Who has a bigger recognized face? Harlan Sanders or, you know, what was the other? Harlan Sanders or Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali was known for, you know, freedom and rights and standing up and black power and no, I won't fight in Vietnam. No, you know, no Viet Cong ever called me nigger. That's Muhammad Ali. That's Muhammad Ali. He did not go to, you know, he stood up against the draft. He was taking out the prime years of his life for standing up for a politically correct, you know, thing. And then he was also bombastic and was like, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. He was hip-hop, right? Spitting out all them couplets. Challenging people to their face, you know, just dancing and shucking and jiving and just having a whole bunch of fun. But basically he just wanted to, you know, get publicity for his fights. And then once he got publicity for his fights, then win the fights. right? He won the gold medal in Rome, 1960. Came back into Louisville, said, guess what, Louisville, Kentucky, I won the gold. You know, I'm the best boxer in the world. And then white Louisville, they put on their white hoods and they said, get on out of here, boy. And that pissed Muhammad Ali off. He throws his gold medals into the Ohio River because he got chased out of a restaurant. And so that's Muhammad Ali. That's how we treated Muhammad Ali. There's a long history of racism, so we can learn from that. But Harlan Sanders, he was able to, he come up with a recipe, and he was able to, you know, sell a whole bunch of chicken in Corbin, Kentucky. But that was after a race riot in 1919. So he's like 1930s or 40s or so. So like decades after this race riot had expelled all black people from Corbin. There was only white people there. So it was fried chicken in Kentucky. It's racist. They're calling us stupid when they talk about fried chicken and chicken, all that sort of chicken, you know. And in a way it's deserved, you know, because like how does that really a thing? But since it was made a thing, right? You know, you eat chicken and watermelon. No, you eat chicken and watermelon. White people, white Kentucky, you're the one eating chicken, okay? So, all your fried chicken. But you didn't invent it, okay? You didn't invent fried chicken. Fritters, they have existed in Europe since the Middle Ages. Fritter is the name applied to a wide variety of fried foods, usually consisting of a portion of batter or breading, which has been filled with bits of meat, seafood, fruit, or other ingredients. So, fritter, right? A batter, breading, and then filled with meats, frying seafood, frying hamburger, frying chicken, right? The Scots and later Scottish immigrants come to the southern United States. They had a tradition of deep frying chicken in fat, unlike their English counterparts who baked or boiled their chicken. So the Scottish people, right, so this is English, this is Anglo-Saxons, this is white people still. In Europe, fritters, right, this is a European tradition. Fried foods date back to the ancient cultures in Europe, Asia, North America, and West Africa. So all over the place. The frying meat in oil and fat is not a new thing. That is not something, you know, Kentucky came up with, okay? So, good, we got KFC. KFC is a huge corporation, makes tons of money throughout the world. We didn't invent the fried chicken. Just, let's be honest. Let's tell the truth. Okay, so in medieval times, fried chicken was already being eaten in Western Europe. Scottish immigrants in the United States are often credited with being the ones to introduce fried chicken to the country, whereas most other European immigrants in the countries ate baked chicken. So the Scottish, basically it's the Scottish immigrants, the Scots-Irish, right? So these are, so they're close to Scotland and England is the same island. So, you know, but if it's not Scottish, it's crap, right? So Scottish is like, they have their own independent sort of distinctive culture, and there's supposed to be an independent movement that's going on in Scotland right now, but Great Britain has been able to basically convince 75% of the two islands that we're all together, right? We're all united. We're all, you know, we're all together, and maybe they all should be together, but they should be together as Scottish people, right? Or Irish people. The United Kingdom. That's a good compromise. The United Kingdom, all you islands. Get it together, right? Get it together so you have one, you know, unified vision that you look to the world. When people talk about Iceland, they know what they're talking about. When they talk about England, Great Britain, Ireland, Scotland, nobody knows. Nobody, I mean, it's too confusing. You know, quit confusing people. But the Scottish people were different from the English people, and the Scottish people were the ones that were frying the chicken, not the English people. They were baking it. So it's actually better for you to bake. Frying is really unhealthy for you. So that you wouldn't even really want to brag about it. It's kind of embarrassing that it's a corporation that we're known for all across the world, that Muhammad Ali has to compete with the corporation. So Muhammad Ali actually was to, you know, be the face for, you know, like George Foreman, like the grill. If he was to find a product, and maybe even KFC could be the, I mean, that's horrible. That, I don't know, it's the racist thing, but like the racist stereotype. I'm not trying to say that. Actually, I was actually making fun of the white people for being the racist stereotype. But I don't know, if he could be the face of it, then that would be combining, you know, the sales of food and eating things, and with one of the greatest ever. So maybe there could be a combination. I don't know. I hate corporation and capitalism, but I think sometimes there's ways to get your causes out there using capitalistic forces. So if not, you know, if not KFC, then Walmart, right? The Muhammad Ali and Walmart could be. I don't know, Muhammad Ali could pick some product that he could sort of say, you can bear my name and carry my legacy and then sell your products also. So therefore, you know, forever and ever, his legacy will be out there, not just in the terms that he did in the politics, Black Power movement, but also in terms of, you know, providing somebody with boxing gloves. He could be, you know, manufacturer of boxing gloves. That's sort of the a thing that would fit, you know, I mean, George Foreman in the Foreman Grill, but he's like, oh, I'm healthy, right? I'm a boxer, but I'm healthy. And George Foreman Grill gets rid of all that nasty grease and all that bad fat, and then it's just lean meat. And now, you know, all that's pretty much true. So, quit lying, Kentucky. We didn't invent the fried chicken. Another thing, the Bowie knife. Stop lying about Jim Bowie, okay? Jim Bowie was an asshole. Jim Bowie was a jerk, okay? He was not a good guy. So, we don't know when he was born. They say 1792, 1796, maybe in Logan County, Kentucky. Maybe born in Tennessee, maybe born in Georgia. We don't know. Tennessee, Georgia, Kentucky, who cares, right? He's a Roman Catholic. He's Scots-Irish. Again, we're seeing more Scots-Irish. He might have been frying his chicken, right? So, Roman Catholic, so that's interesting. So, not Protestant, not English, not the original white people. So, 1792, he's here. Moved to Missouri when he was 4 years old. Or Louisiana when he was 6. Or both. And he rode alligators. So, he moved to Missouri when he was only 4. So, what could he have done in Kentucky the first 3 years of his life? He was just pooping and crapping and crying for his mother's, you know, breast milk. So that's all he was doing for the first 3 years of his life. Jim Bowie was nothing. He was absolutely nothing in Kentucky, just like Abraham Lincoln. All they did, they were born, and that's important for them to be born, because to have a high child mortality rate, that's not a good thing. So, you know, if he was born in today's Kentucky, there'd be a chance he wouldn't have actually been born. But back in then days, you know, back in the day when he was actually able to be born, good that he was born here. That's good for his family that they was able to create another life. But the important parts of Jim Bowie's life is what he did during his life, okay? So he's born in Kentucky, but I'm not going to consider him Kentucky, and I'm not going to brag about him, especially when you find out about all that he's done, okay? So, important slaves into Louisiana from Texas. So he's part of the slave trade. You have all these, you know, the eastern seaboard, they're making it illegal, and they're making it harder and harder. But you have all these, the Wild West, right? So you have all these people in the West, these pirates that he's able to negotiate, and he's still moving slaves in the West, you know, before they get over there and make it illegal. He died at the Alamo. He was a land speculator in 1827. The Superior Court in Little Rock, Pulaski County, received 126 claims for confirmation, and practically all the Bowie land claims were confirmed. United States Deputy Attorney General Samuel Day Donne suspected fraud and appealed the case in 1831. The Arkansas court ruling that witnesses in the first trial had been bribed changed its ruling to find that the claims of the Bowies were fraudulent. The case was heard in the United States Supreme Court, which in Sampreyak and Stewart versus the United States. So Sampreyak, S-A-M-P-R-E-Y-A-C, and Stewart versus the United States throughout all the Bowie claims. Bowie was never held accountable for these frauds, as he was not specifically named in the court documents. With the proceeds, he brought some slaves and expanded his operation. So, oh, good, Bowie, wow, you know, he was actually never held accountable for the frauds. He's sitting there selling all these land that he didn't actually have. It goes to the Supreme Court. Finds out that he was, you know, they threw all the claims out, but they didn't hold him account. So no, none of your true, what you said is true. If you received any money, you got to give the money back. So now Bowie has all these enemies because he sold them land claims that weren't real land claims. So with the proceeds, he says that he bought some slaves and they expanded his operation. So he's making all this money, and with that illegal money he got, he bought slaves, and now he's a big slave trader. He became acquainted with Jean Lafitte, Jean J. J-E-A-N, Jean, and then Lafitte, L-A-F-I-T-T-E, Jean Lafitte. He's like a legendary Gulf Coast pirate. He was involved in illegal slave smuggling, so that's who James Bowie, or Jim Bowie, is getting all his slaves from a pirate, the Gulf Coast pirate, Jean Lafitte, or Lafitte. He was involved in illegal slave smuggling. Bowie and his brothers smuggled slaves, declared that they found them, right? Oh, we found them. You know, we found these slaves. Really, in the middle of America, he just found a bunch of slaves. And then they kept the money when they were sold at the auction. Later, he came up with a scheme for getting land for free. He made up some French and Spanish documents claiming that he had purchased land in Louisiana. So he was able to make French and Spanish documents, right? He made them up. So maybe he actually could speak French and Spanish. Maybe he was an intelligent, educated person. Or maybe he just knew that there was a confusing time in the Wild West and he was trying to capitalize on those confusing times. Look, I have this document in French, which means this land is mine. I got this document in Spanish, which means this land is mine. Well, you know, that's all good and all, but this here is America, right? The Louisiana Purchase was 1804, so this is all American. So what's the matter with the French and Spanish documents? This is American land, so it doesn't even matter. It's whatever the court system now claims. A Bowie knife, James Bowie, Bowie, right? Either one of those. I've heard both of them. Bowie. He became known for his ability to fight with knives at the Sandbar duel in Mississippi in 1827. In this fight, he used a knife which was given to him by his brother. So they say, according to many sources, James Black made the knife for Jim Bowie. So James Black, it's not even a Bowie knife, it's a James Black knife. So they should start calling it the black knife. Not a Bowie knife, it's a black knife. So, hey, where's that black knife at? I want to get that black knife. That black knife is good. There's black knives? Yeah, I want a black knife. Bowie? Oh, Bowie gooey. Bowie gooey fooey shooey. Dewey, Louie. Huey and Louie. And that sounds, a Bowie knife. That sounds like Donald Duck and his nephews. Nah, not a Bowie knife. A black knife. I want a black knife. A James Black knife. So, for the time Jim Bowie died at the Alamo, 1836, the time Bowie knife is established. A historical Bowie knife is not a single design, but a series of knives improved several times by Bowie over the years. The earliest such knife, made by Jesse Clift, James Bowie's brother, resembled Spanish hunting knives of the day and differed little from a common butcher knife. So Jesse Clift made him a butcher knife. And then a resin pleasant Bowie also supposedly made the knife. But it sounds to me, because Arkansas saw a really convincing article that it was James Black. James Black is the one who made the Bowie knife. And I don't think he's a black man. I think that's his last name. So that's his friend, and it was in Arkansas, right? Okay, so one account with an early and wide circulation is that of the broken sword Bowie. While engaged in a fight with some Mexicans, it is said broke off his sword some 15 or 20 inches from the hilt. He found the broken blade so useful in hand-to-hand combat. Fighting with others, rushed to imitate his weapon. Harper's Weekly printed the version at the time of the Civil War. It's a true story of the original origin of the Bowie knife, a weapon that, again, was found in favor with Southern troops. So he was fighting some Mexicans. He broke his sword some 15 or 20 inches from the hilt. So he used a half a sword, right? That's what they're saying. He's fighting Mexicans. And then, of course, the Southerners, a race of Southerners, are going to like a story like that. Oh, man, it's good, instead of having a big old sword, you have a half a sword, right? I mean, why have a big old sword when you can fight with half a sword? They're limber, they're quicker. So, Resin Pleasant Bowie was an American inventor, designer, they said, of the Bowie knife. Served 3 terms as a Louisiana legislator with his brother James. Smuggled slaves, worked as a land speculator. The brother set up the first steam mill in Louisiana to be used for grinding sugar cane. Bowie took credit for inventing the Bowie knife, which came to prominence when used by James Bowie in the Sandbar fight in 1827. For a long time, the Bowie knife is also known as the Arkansas toothpick. In that state takes credit in some versions for a part in the manufacture of the first Bowie weapon, but the true Arkansas toothpick is a heavy dagger with a narrow blade up to 25 inches long. A former judge in Arkansas, William F. Pope, insisted that Resin P. Bowie carved the first pattern of the first knife. Another claimant, Daniel Webster Jones, Democratic governor of Arkansas. So a lot of people are claiming that they made it. They said that people were telling Black, make me a knife like Bowie's. This eventually became, make me a Bowie knife. So maybe a knife like that you made for him, but really it was a James Black knife. So I don't know if you made it for somebody, if you made somebody, it shouldn't be. It should be the Black knife. Don't give Bowie the credit, and don't give Kentucky credit for Bowie. You know what I mean? So don't give Bowie credit whatsoever for anything forever. He was a slave trading. He was a marauder. He was a land speculator. He was a liar. Probably a thief too, right? He's stealing those land that he's sitting there, stole land, right? He saw those land claims that weren't real land claims. So he took all that money. He's a thief, murderer. He's a murderous thief. Like, why would we honor somebody like this? Just because they used his name in the Battle of the Alamo, right? Remember the Alamo? Well, yeah, I remember the Alamo. He was going farther than when he was supposed to be going. That was Mexican territory that he was in. It was an aggressive action, okay? Polk lied, okay? The Mexican-American War was over a lie. We were not invaded. We were not attacked. We were the ones doing the attacking. And then we pretended to be victims. Redson's granddaughter claimed in the 1885 letter to Louisiana State University that he personally witnessed Cleft make the knife for his grandfather. Okay, so let's see. Mexican-American War. This knife became famous as the knife used by Bowie at the sandbar fight, which was the famous 1827 duel between Bowie and several men, including the Major Norris Wright of Alexandria, Louisiana. The fight took place on a sandbar in Mississippi River across the Natchez, Mississippi. In this battle, Bowie was stabbed, shot, beaten half to death, but managed to win the fight. Jim Bowie's older brother, John, claimed the knife at the sandbar fight was not Cleft's knife, but a knife specifically made for Bowie by a blacksmith named Snowden. Now we have Snowden, okay? So we got the next governor, we got the two brothers, we got Snowden, you know, all these people saying that they made the Bowie knife. So he's the one that made it popular. That doesn't mean he's the one that invented it, okay? And he might have been born in Kentucky. So the whole argument just kind of falls apart to say that this Kentuckian invented this knife, so we should be proud of the Bowie knife. No, Kentucky did not invent the Bowie knife. Quit lying to people, okay? The Sandbar Massacres, September 19th, 1821, Bowie, Major Norris Wright attended a duel on a sandbar outside of Natchez, Mississippi. Bowie supported duelist Samuel Levi Wells III, while Wright favored Dr. Thomas Harris Maddox, both of Alexandria, Louisiana. About 16 men were present. Wells had also brought supporters, including Major George McWhorter and General Samuel Cooney. Maddox was supported by Colonel Robert Crane, Carey Blanchard, Alfred Blanchard, and several unnamed others. Wright was late, had not yet arrived when the duel began. The duelists each fired 2 shots, and as neither man was injured, resolved their duel with a handshake. As the duelists turned to leave, Bowie came forward to meet them. Seeing this, Maddox's friend ran forward to join the group. Cooney, who had previously fought with Crane, is recorded to have called out to him, "Colonel Crane, it's a good time to settle our difficulty." Crane fired, missing Cooney, but striking Bowie in the hip and knocking him to the ground. Cooney and Crane then exchanged fire, with Crane sustaining a flesh wound to the arm and Cooney dying from the shot to the chest. So they say, "Colonel Crane, this is the time, you know, to settle our difficulties." And he wound up dying. So Cooney had got shot in the chest. He tried to say, "Let's settle our difficulties," and pow pow, now they're dead. Bowie, rising to his feet, drew his knife and charged at Crane, struck him so hard with his empty pistol upon the head that it broke and sent Bowie to his knees. So he rose to his feet, drew his knife, charged, but he hit him hard with his empty pistol. Wright appeared, drew a pistol, and shot at the fallen Bowie, who was missing. Wright then drew his sword. No, who missed, right? Shot at Bowie, and he missed. So Wright then drew his sword, cane, and stabbed Bowie in the chest. But the thin blade was deflected by his sternum. Oh my God. Bowie. As Wright attempted to pull the blade free, so I guess it got deflected. I guess it was stuck in it or something. He tried to pull it free. Bowie reached up, grabbed his shirt, and pulled him down upon the point of his Bowie knife. So, and then Wright died quickly. And Bowie, with Wright's sword still protruding from his chest, was shot again and stabbed by another member of the group. As Bowie stood, pulling the sword cane from his chest, both Blanchard brothers fired at him, and he was struck once in the arm. Bowie spun and cut off part of Alfred's forearm. Carey fired a second shot at Bowie, but missed. As the brothers fled, Carey was shot and wounded by Major McWhorter. Sorry, lost my place here. The Battle of the Sandbar lasted more than 10 minutes, leaving Samuel Cooney and Norris Wright dead and another 4 men, Alfred Blanchard, Carey Blanchard, Robert Crane, and Jim Bowie, wounded. Crane helped carry Bowie away, with Bowie recording as having thanked him, saying, "Colonel Crane, I do not think under the circumstances you ought to have shot me." One doctor reputedly said, "How Bowie lived is a mystery to me, but live he did. The doctors who had been present for the duel managed to patch Bowie's wounds." So, okay, what a horrendous fight. Incredible. He wound up living through all that, right? But, you know, he did a lot of bad things to people. He was a slave marauder. Not a good man. Not somebody you want your daughter to date, right? So, Kentucky didn't invent the Bowie knife, so let's just stop lying about that. We didn't invent the Corvette or the disco balls or the cheeseburger. We didn't invent these things. So, don't take credit for things that we haven't actually done. We have invented a lot of other things, though. We also did invent fried chicken. We did invent the high fives, and we invented the Happy Birthday song, the creation of two Louisville sisters in 1893. The melody of Happy Birthday to You comes from the song Good Morning to All. So Kentucky invented the Happy Birthday song. It's been attributed to the American siblings Patty Hill and Mildred J. Hill in 1893, although the claim that the sisters composed the tune is disputed. Patty was a kindergarten principal in Louisville, Kentucky. So, Happy Birthday to You is made in Louisville, Kentucky. Another thing created by Louisville, Kentucky. Okay, so lots of inventions. Good Morning to All, they changed it to Happy Birthday to You. The subsequent legal battle actually is pretty remarkable because it's still happening today. The combination melody and lyrics in Happy Birthday to You first appeared in print in 1912, probably existed even earlier. None of these earlier appearances included credits or copyright notices. The Sue Me Company registered for copyright in 1935, crediting authors Preston Ware Orim and Mrs. R.R. Foreman. In 1988, Warner Chappell Music purchased the company, owning the copyright for $25 million, with the value of Happy Birthday estimated at $5 million. So they paid 5 times the estimated value of what the song Happy Birthday would be for, because you can get royalties. Anytime, you know, a film plays the Happy Birthday to You, then this company makes money, Warner Chappell Music, because they had purchased the company who owned the copyright. How did they? The Sue Me Company registered for copyright, and they credited authors, different authors. For it, so they credit. So basically, it's all based on bullshit. They registered for copyright, said other people had written it, and therefore they said that they owned the song, but they didn't make the song. But I guess somebody has to own it. I don't know. So based on the 1935 copyright registration, Warner claims that the United States copyright will not expire until 2013. That unauthorized public performances of the song are technically illegal unless royalties are paid to Warner Chappell Music. In one specific instance, in February 2010, these royalties were said to amount to $700. In the European Union, the copyright of the song will expire no later than December 31st, 2016. The reason for that is because the copyright in Europe lasts from the time that the person lives to their death plus 70 years. And so 70 years ago, from 2007, 2 years, Happy Birthday to You will be available to the entire public. But it's plus 70 years. So it's like you die, and then you add another lifespan to that, and that's how long that person's estate. So those two sisters from Louisville can still own the song, theoretically, and whoever can claim their estate would say that they own the song here. But the Sue Me Company had registered for the copyright, and then another company had bought that copyright. So that's a bad deal, actually. But, I mean, you put so much money behind it, right? It's kind of saying, well, they're the ones that own it because they spent so much money to buy it. They've been collecting royalties for decades on it, and there's actually a Supreme Court case on it because they're fighting it, saying that they are, you know, they've been sitting there taking royalties for something they don't even own. And that's actually, they're right. They legitimately are, you know, they don't own the copyright to the actual song. Because they credit different authors. So unless they could somehow say Preston Ware, Orim, and R.R. Foreman are the original authors, but they wrote it, you know, several years after the sisters in Louisville had wrote it. So that's I don't know how they could credit with them. They heard the song and wrote it on their own, the exact words. You know, that just seems far-fetched. And so yeah, they're totally wrong. This copyright company, Warner Chappell, spent $25 million for a copyright claim that wasn't even legit to begin with. But I guess they had believed in their claims, and of course, if I'm the Sue Me Company, I would sell it in a heartbeat. Yeah, this copyright that we made up, yeah, go ahead, buy it. And they spent all this money, and they've been collecting all these royalties. But the American copyright status of Happy Birthday to You began to draw more attention with the passage of the Copyright Term Extension Act in 1998. When the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the act in Eldred v. Ashcroft in 2003, Associate Justice Stephen Breyer specifically mentioned Happy Birthday to You in his dissenting opinion. American law professor Robert Branius, who extensively researched the song, has concluded that it is almost certainly no longer under copyright. In 2013, based in large part on Branius' research, Good Morning to You Productions, a documentary film company, sued Warner Chappell for falsely claiming copyright for the song. So Robert Branius, he researched the song, almost certainly no under copyright. So in 2 years, it's not under copyright because of the sister's death, right? So it's going to be publicly available to everybody. But this company has been making money for staying on a false copyright claim for decades. And yes, they should be held to account for it. So that's an interesting background to something that Kentucky invented, Louisville, Kentucky. We invented Happy Birthday to You. So every time you hear that song, think, my God, that came out of Kentucky. That's a Louisville, Kentucky thing. Just that's all we do all day. We sing Happy Birthday to each other. Just even on even on a Monday, right? Even on a so Tommy gun. John T. Thompson invented the Thompson machine gun. Also Morgan, Garrett Morgan invented a stoplight, a safety hood, and a smoke protector. So that's something else. I haven't really mentioned much of that. Garrett Morgan was a black man too, so a black man who had invented a lot of stuff. That's a notable person. But I heard that all the inventions that he used are different. But he invented a type of stoplight, which we still use, a stoplight, right? That was actually Huey Newton made his rise because he wanted to sort of police his own corner, to have his own stoplights, whatever, and not have to listen to the police. So the stoplights, the safety hood, and the smoke protector. So a safety hood, some sort of gas protector, and a smoke protector. So he invented things. I'm not sure if they were still used or not, but Garrett Morgan, I think he's a notable inventor, a black inventor who invented these things. So, the sandbar fight, we already talked about it, right? There was basically two men, Samuel Levi Wells III and Dr. Thomas Harris Maddox. They were going to fight a duel, and they brought all their friends. So, it was just a duel. It was just between two, but they brought all their buddies with them. And then, after I thought the duel, they shot. They both missed, and then they let the matter drop. But a brawl broke out afterwards among the people that they had brought, their seconds or whatever. So they came in there, they shot twice, they missed, they shook hands. So the sandbar fight, the duel at the sandbar fight ended with the two duelists shaking hands and walking away. But it's such a rowdy crowd that eventually a brawl breaks out, right? Bowie was there on behalf of Wells. The duel ended, right? Bowie was there on behalf, so was Bowie there? See, there's a lot of, all you have is print, right? As of long, unless you got videotape, how can you tell? Bowie fought like a demon in spite of being shot 3 times, stabbed with a sword cane. The wounded Bowie killed one of his opponents with a massive knife, the so-called Bowie knife, in an effort to bring order to the smuggling and piracy activities in Barataria, Louisiana. Governor William Claiborne offered a $500 bounty for the arrest of Jean Lafitte. But Jean Lafitte responded by doubling the dollar amount and offering a bounty of $1,000 on the head of Governor William Claiborne. So the pirate was like, "Oh, you're going to put a bounty on my head? I just put a bounty on your head." So now, now you get a Django. You'll get a person who comes under the guise of laws in order to establish justice. Governor put out a warrant for your arrest. And so now I'm going to go there and I'm going to capture you by all means, any means necessary. I'm going to capture you and bring you to justice, because I have a warrant out for your arrest. And sometimes warrants are for whether you're wanted dead or alive, right? So if you murdered somebody, you're wanted dead or alive. Or if you pissed off the wrong people and they put out a political hit on you, right? They'll say he's a traitor, he's wanted for treason, wanted dead or alive. Bourbon is another thing that Kentucky can brag about. The invention of bourbon is also attributed to a pioneering Baptist minister, distiller named Elijah Craig. Reverend Craig, credited with many Kentucky firsts: the fulling mill, paper mill, rope walk, which is hemp rope walk, right? Hemp rope walk. He's said to be the first to age the distillation in charred oak cask, a process that gives bourbon its reddish color and unique taste. So that was what Elijah Craig had brought in, the first to age the distillation in charred oak cask, a process which the barrels, I guess he lets it distill in barrels, and it gives the bourbon its reddish color and unique taste. Distilling probably was brought to present-day Kentucky in the late 18th century by the Scots. So again, Scots-Irish are bringing everything. Other settlers, English, Irish, Welsh, German, French, also began to farm the area in earnest. Essentially, any type of grain can be used to make whiskey. The practice of aging whiskey and charring the barrels for better flavor has been known in Europe for centuries. So you got all these Europeans in Kentucky. They all know about, aging whiskey, but they had been aging, whatever was in Europe. So maybe wheat or barley or what have you. But here, it was corn mash. So the use of local American corn for the mash and oak for the barrels was making use of local materials by the European American settlers. Elijah Craig was a real person, 1738-1808, a Kentucky pioneer, community leader, entrepreneur, Baptist minister. Richard Collins does not identify Craig by name, but writes that the first bourbon whiskey was made in 1789 at Georgetown at the Fulling Mill at Royal Spring. This claim is included without elaboration or substantiation on densely packed page of Kentucky First. Since Craig operated the Fulling Mill at the Royal Spring in that year, the invention is attributed to him. So Elijah Craig operated the Fulling Mill at the Royal Spring, so therefore he made bourbon whiskey. Okay, this isn't, well, yeah, this is alright. So back in 1972, okay, so this guy was actually writing it saying, I doubt it, but it's true because back in 1792, a Catholic minister and accomplished whiskey distillerator named Elijah Craig, who invented rick house, fulling mill, paper mill, so he invented all these other things. Upon realizing he's distilled too much whiskey, decided to store the leftovers in an empty old sugar barrel. A month later, after having run out of whiskey in his house, Elijah Craig decided to tap the sugar barrel he stored in his hay barn. Upon drinking the whiskey from the barrel, he immediately realized that the bourbon had turned from a clear to a light reddish hue, and once he tasted it, he knew that he was on to something. So yes, Elijah Craig is the inventor of bourbon. That is Kentucky. There's a couple more Kentucky First coming up, and then hopefully we'll get to some hemp, right? This is supposed to be the Kentucky Hemp Lectures, but it's Kentucky. And we need to know as Kentuckians that we are inventors and we invent stuff and we know what we're talking about. We don't claim things that aren't true. We claim things that are true. And therefore, being the rich heritage of inventors that we are, we can go forth through the night and create the best crop of hemp that Kentucky has ever seen made, okay? The best crop, the incredible, the most evolved, the greatest medicines, the greatest cloth, the greatest clothings, the greatest... hemp oil, clothing, cloth, let's see what else. Hemp, cloth, food, car parts, right? So the most durable car parts, our hemp crops are just going to be, it's going to revolutionize the world, okay? The cannabinoid, the medical research that we find with the cannabinoids and the oil and the seeds and the blooms, especially when we get full-blown legalization, we will start to figure out how marijuana has been curing cancer. We can isolate those molecules and we can start curing cancer for everybody. So if we actually cared about the cure for cancer, if we care about Teresa Gripsover, my grandmother died of colon cancer. If anybody, any of the Gripsovers in my family had loved her or cared about her, they would have given her cannabinoids or some hemp oil or the Ronnie Lee Smith hemp oil or the Jamaican hash oil, which is the same thing. So they would have made Jamaican hash oil because that has been proven to solve cancer. Whereas chemotherapy has killed everybody. Basically, Ronnie's entire family has been killed by chemotherapy, including Ronnie himself. So these are not good options for people that have cancer to kill all the cancer all around it. What you need to do is find out what the CB2 receptor. The CB2 receptor is still on these cancer cells, and you just got to get a particular cannabinoid to get to that CB2 receptor and tell those cancer cells that they need to kill themselves, that they need to die, that they're deformed, that they're going, you know, overboard. So that's what we need to find. We need to get medical research people on this. It takes, for one medical breakthrough, one scientific or medical breakthrough, it takes 10,000 scientists to get that accomplished. So we don't just need me or you or her. We need everybody on this. And we need everybody writing the research and everybody researching, you know, reviewing and researching the research and having journals and compiling all these notes and actually have a sort of an intellectual, you know, have a value on intelligence and on ideas, because the ideas are what's going to be, that's what's going to make this work, this hemp experiment in Kentucky work. So we can do it, Kentucky. And more hemp. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Kentucky First, and then I'm going to get to hemp. I swear, within 10 minutes of the next video. I swear.